Welcome to Ike's Flame. Join us on another Star Wars adventure. Punch it, Chewie. Welcome to another episode of Ike's Flame. We're gonna shortly go on another Star Wars adventure here, and I'm excited that you guys can join me. I'm Ike here, and we're gonna be celebrating May the 4th be with you this month, and especially today. Today's May 3rd, so that means tomorrow is May 4th, so May the 4th be with you just a little early, and I hope you guys have a great Star Wars day, a great Star Wars month, and it is fun to celebrate it, and we're going to do that a little bit with our theme for the month. And so a couple of things as we get started here is, one, as we talked about last month, we're going to have a theme for each month. We're going to talk about different characters. This month's going to be a little different, a little bit. We're still got a theme for the month. We're going to talk about characters, and we're just going to talk about fun. We're not going to do quite as much deep diving, but just fun, because these are characters that are more prominent, more familiar, especially if you're familiar with Star Wars at all. And so I'm going to share some of my thoughts, my memories even around these characters, and so on and so forth. And also, since it's May, and it's May the 4th tomorrow, and Star Wars month, we are also going to dive into, I'm going to have a question for you guys each week. So that question will be based off of our theme for the month, which our theme for the month this month is the original trilogy, as we look back at the original movies, what really started May the 4th, and the Star Wars that really brought us all into being Star Wars fans and loving Star Wars. So with that said, my question for you guys this week is this: what is your favorite Star Wars movie from the original trilogy? So, of those three, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, which is your favorite? And you guys can share this with me via Instagram. So my Instagram is Ike's Flame, or you can DM me there. I'd love to hear from you there. Or also you can email me. My email is ikesflame@gmail.com, and you guys can email me your answers and which video or which movie is your favorite, and also if you have a story that goes with it, I'd love to hear that as well. So, like, for instance, if you remember going to see the original Star Wars movie before it was called A New Hope in 1977, you remember going with your high school buddies to go watch it. Like, I'd love to hear that from you, like that type of memory, if that is your favorite, or if you remember watching your dad taking you to go watch Empire Strikes Back, or whatever it is, or if you're more my age, if you remember the first time you remember watching one of the whatever movie is your favorite. And so I was not alive when the original movies came out, but just for reference, I was born about 20 years after A New Hope came out. So I'll let you guys figure that out and do the math. But so with that said, like, that's so what is your favorite movie, and maybe what's a story that goes with it? Hope to hear from you guys. You can DM me at ikesflame, and also email me at ikesflame@gmail.com. So as we dive in this week, we're going to jump into a very iconic character, a fun character. I'm just going to share my thoughts. There's going to be less deep diving, like I said, this week, and we're just going to have fun. You're going to hear some maybe fun, weird opinions of mine, and just why I love this character that we're going to talk about, and things of that nature. So this week, we are going to talk about Luke Skywalker. Probably the most iconic. Is he the most iconic? I don't know. I would say maybe the most iconic Star Wars character that we have. Definitely top 2 or 3. Say Han Solo might be up there too. But definitely one of the most iconic Star Wars characters that we have, that we know, that we love, and that sort of thing. And so And just for frame of reference, this week as you guys know, Luke spans a wide variety. He's technically in Revenge of the Sith as a baby, and goes all the way through the original trilogy and into the sequels, and plays a sufficient role. We've now recently seen him in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, and I think he's maybe in Rebels a little bit as well. And so we find Luke a lot of places in some different books, and that sort of thing. And so, with that said, we are going to stick with the original movies, the original trilogy. So, and we're going to talk about Luke and those, and just my thoughts on that is what we're going to get into. So, as we do this, so we're going to dive in and go for it. So, and before we get too far here, one thing I would encourage you guys to do is, and if you guys are not familiar with Legends material as much, and so I would encourage you guys to go pick up some Legends material from Luke, and that has to do with Luke, and dive into that as well. There's some really good stuff there, outside of even what is considered canon through Disney now, but we have a lot of great Legends material about Luke, and that sort of thing. And so I'd encourage you guys to do that. Check that out and go from there. It's just some fun stuff. But we're talking about the original trilogy. So I think a few things I want to talk about, look through with you guys is kind of got 5 things I'm going to go with for you guys. And first off, I'm going to do my favorite memory with Luke. That scene in a movie that is like my favorite. When I think of Luke, I think of this scene, and just the fun aspect of Star Wars and that sort of thing. And so, and there's so many scenes you could pick from, and there's arguments for all of them. And I think there's actually, how I'm going to do this, I'm going to pick a scene from each movie that I think is kind of iconic, I really enjoy, and that sort of thing. And so, the first scene, when we're starting A New Hope, is the trench run. So when his trench run on the original Death Star to blow it up, and I just love this. I love this scene. You have Darth Vader, his father, at the time, Luke doesn't know this, trying to shoot him down to keep him from destroying the Death Star. And I think it's the moment when he hears Obi-Wan's voice of, "Luke, let go, use the Force." That was very paraphrased. And he turns off his targeting computer, and the Rebel base is like, "Oh, something wrong." And I just love this scene. It's like Star Wars. It's the essence of Star Wars. If I was alive in 1977 and was going to see this movie, I would like that. I feel like that would have been the scene that captured me the most, and hasn't captured me the most from the original movie, with Luke specifically. And so I just love that. And so my next favorite, if we jump on to the Empire Strikes Back, and my favorite scene with Luke in this is when he's training with Yoda on Dagobah. So he goes and finds Yoda on Dagobah. He kind of thinks Yoda's a little crazy at first. He doesn't exactly know that Yoda at first. And when Yoda's trying to eat his food and mess with R2-D2 and all that stuff. But with that, I think that I love these scenes of this scene, because we see Luke training. I think of him lifting the rocks, him having him doing a handstand with one hand, lifting a rock, and Yoda's on his foot in the air, and just iconic. And I love that. And I think the other part of the reason I love these scenes was we see Luke training, and we also get these very iconic quotes from Star Wars of the quote of do or do not, there is no try. We also get "Judge me by my size" by Yoda. We get these iconic Yoda quotes, and we also get to see Yoda lift the X-Wing out of the swamp, and we get to see Luke do his I want to call it his inaugural flip as he's training that kind of becomes iconic. His somersault flip. And it's just fun to see these things. And I think also with that, and this kind of a wide variety, like, I love that. And so I think the other reason I love this is in the original Lego Star Wars, we have, I don't remember what original Lego Star Wars I had on the PlayStation, but I remember playing that scene through on Lego Star Wars, and I just like always my favorite thing to do. I love that, and so but like that was always an iconic scene for me. I don't remember if I had the original trilogy one or like I think it was like the complete saga, which had the prequels in it and all that stuff. Which now we have the Skywalker saga, which is great and is a lot of fun. So if you guys don't have that, I'd encourage you to check that out, especially if you're a Lego Star Wars fan when you're younger. And any video games, check it out. It's a lot of fun. So that's kind of my favorite scene that we have of Luke in Empire Strikes Back. And I think then my favorite scene of Luke in Return of the Jedi, and this is a very specific scene I think of, and it is, I love in Empire Strikes Back, or not Empire Strikes, Return of the Jedi, my bad, saying the wrong thing here. In Return of the Jedi, we see Luke, when he's confronting Vader and Palpatine, this scene, and Luke has kind of like hidden himself under some like I don't even know what they are, like, how do you describe that? Elevated platforms within the throne room, and we see where there's a moment where you see half of Luke's face is dark and the other half is light, and it's this battle that he's working through as he's fighting Vader at the time, to go to the light or to go to the dark, and he obviously ends up prevailing and goes to the light, but we see this, and I just love it. It just for me, it's a very iconic moment, him confronting Vader and Palpatine, as well as like seeing that his face shadowed in the dark on one side and in the light on the other, and just a lot of fun. I enjoy seeing that, and kind of like I always remember that, like as I watch that, that's like oh yeah, like that's what Star Wars is about, is the dark and the light, and the balance and the Force, and like all these things we get from Star Wars, specifically related to the Jedi, and fighting for good, and this sort of thing, which eventually happens, and the Rebels win, and as we go on from there. And so I just love that scene with Luke in Return of the Jedi. And so with that said, so like I said, I'm going to have 5 things we're going through. So the second thing we're going to go through is I think like maybe the funniest scene or thing from the original trilogy with Luke. And I think I don't know, I've always thought it always gives me a chuckle when I see it. It's at the end of Empire Strikes Back, I believe. I believe it's at the end of Empire Strikes Back. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's when Leia gives Luke a kiss, and Luke gets a smirk on his face, and Han is like, I don't know, Han's just being goofy or whatever, and Luke's kind of like, haha, I got a kiss and you didn't. It always just makes me laugh. I enjoy that part of it. And so that's kind of my favorite, like, kind of comical moment with Luke, is seeing him get the kiss from Leia, and Han's kind of like jealous and grumpy, and I think Chewie has a little bit of his Wookiee laugh going on, which is a lot of fun. And so, with that said, I think, so we got my favorite memories, we got the funny moment with Luke, And then thirdly, is I think the characteristic about Luke that I like the most. And I think the characteristic I love about Luke, and we see this especially in A New Hope and even into Empire Strikes Back, but I think it manifests into how he matures and how he becomes this great Jedi. And so is his innocence. And we see that Luke has he's very innocent in who he is and what's going on. And we see this because, like, when we first see him in A New Hope on Tatooine, he's a moisture farmer. He's very he doesn't understand the rest of what's going on in the galaxy. He doesn't. There's a lot of unknowns for him, and that sort of thing, and I think it also, like, part of that as well is, like, we see with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and especially Uncle Owen. Uncle Owen, like, he doesn't talk about Luke's father, Darth Vader, Anakin, and what happened to him, and we see that some as well. So, like, there's this kind of mysteriousness behind that Luke doesn't know. And so we kind of see his innocence. And I think his innocence is also brings out what is good. What is good about her. Sorry about that. You guys might have just heard like a loud ding sound. I hope you didn't. But if you did, I'm sorry about that. But his innocence is what brings this out for him and who he is. And I think it really brings him into, like, his goodness, like, why he wants to be in the light, why he wants to be good, and do the right thing. And I think there's a couple scenes that kind of remind me of this. And at the end, towards the end of A New Hope, we see Luke's getting ready to jump in his X-Wing to go on the mission to blow up the Death Star, and he has this interaction with Han of, like, I'd hope you stay, or, like, Luke had this anticipation that Han was going to stay, and Han and Chewie at this moment are taking the money to go pay his debts and aren't going to stay to help fight, and all this type of stuff. And he mentions Leia. He's like, I really thought Han would stay. And so Luke has this, like, innocent hope about him of, like, he wants the good, he sees the good in people and hopes that good those people will make the decision. I think the other area we see is, like, when we go back to the scene of when Luke's training on Dagobah with Yoda, and after he's gone into the cave and had this vision with Vader and all this, we see Luke getting ready to get in his X-Wing, and talks about, like, he mentions, like, well, Han and Leia will die if I don't go help them, and Yoda's like, well, we don't know that, and the future is clouded and all this stuff. And I think for Luke, like, yes, he wanted to become a great Jedi, yes, he wanted to follow the ways of the Force, but for him to follow the Force, like, the Force wasn't a means to an end, but the Force was a way to help his friends, to continue the rebellion, to bring down the Empire, to make the galaxy better. And so I think it's like we see this, like, innocence of, like, he just wants to be helpful. He wants to be a good friend in this moment and go to Bespin, to Cloud City, and to help his friends. And so we see this moment where Luke promises, one, he promises to come back and finish his training, but also, two, he is willing to forego finishing his training to go help his friends. And I just love that kind of characteristic, this innocence, this idea that he thinks of how he can help others. And I think that's part of that good versus evil thing that draws us into Star Wars and kind of the coolness and mystery of Star Wars and that sort of thing. And I think part of that is, like, I know for me, like, any good storytelling, when we have good versus evil and all this stuff, it, like, draws us in because it's part of our human reality. Like, we have good versus evil, and we want to see good win, and, like, all this stuff. And then, like, even though it's a this good versus evil tale is told over and over again. Like when it's told well, I think it'll always get our interest, and that's one thing I think I like about this. We see this good versus evil in Luke, and this innocence in Luke as he is venturing through his journey. And so that's kind of my favorite characteristic. So we got memories. Two, what I do. I'm drawing a complete blank. Oh, funny moment for Luke. 3 is favorite characteristic, and then 4. I'm gonna go with. I'm getting confused here. So the fourth thing I want to talk about with Luke, and kind of just my opinion, my sharing with you guys, is my favorite action fight scene. Maybe that's a good way to put it. My favorite fight scene with Luke, and I think. For me, my favorite fight scene has always been Return of the Jedi, and when they are on the sail barges. So when on Tatooine, when they go to Jabba's palace, they're making the rescue, they're getting ready to be executed and all this stuff, and Leia is at the time chained to Jabba the Hutt, and R2-D2's being a waiter droid, and C-3PO is a translator, and we have Han and Lando and Chewie that are all just trying to not drive each other crazy at the moment. But I love this fight scene, and part of the reason I think it's just iconic, and for me, is when Luke salutes R2 shoots out his lightsaber, and Luke jumps off the diving board. Basically, is like a diving board. I always thought of it as the plank to the whatever the thing he was on. Drawing a blank on what that's called, even though I know I just said it. But and he does a flip and grabs his lightsaber and ignites it, so it's like they're fighting. And I just always find that fight scene and fun and just enticing. And this isn't necessarily Luke specific, but I always loved the line of when Han's like, "Boba Fett, where?" And then Boba Fett gets hit and goes down the Sarlacc pit, and it's just always funny to me. But yeah, I love this fight scene and seeing just how Luke, just watching Luke fight, and just a fun scene, a lot of action going on, specifically as we see Luke at the beginning of it, and the beginning of Return of the Jedi. And we get to see a little bit, like, with this scene, we get to see, like, a little bit of Luke's growth between the time frame between the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I don't really know how long that time frame is, but we get to see a little bit of that growth as well, with how he's dressed and those sorts of things. And so I just enjoy that scene. It's a lot of fun, and that sort of thing. And so and then the next thing, fifth and last kind of thing I want to talk about today with you guys is let me find, hold on, where did I put my paper fell off the table? Give me a second, guys. Oh yeah, so the fifth and last thing I want to talk to you guys about is Luke's, and this isn't necessarily like my favorite or like whatever, but I just want to talk about like Luke's Jedi journey a little bit. And I know we talked about this a little bit already with his training scene and all that, but I just find Luke's Jedi journey so it's just fun. It's a fun journey. And so Luke goes from being on Tatooine to training with Obi-Wan a little bit on the Falcon to escaping the Death Star and watching Obi-Wan sacrifice himself so they can escape. And then in Empire Strikes Back, we see Luke captured by the Wampa, and he escapes the Wampa. He sees Obi-Wan in a vision. He goes to Dagobah and trains with Yoda. Goes to Bespin and all that sort of thing. And then tries to help save his friends, and then kind of continuing to save his friends in episode 6 when he with the fight scene I was just talking about and that sort of thing. And then he goes back to Dagobah and finishes training. And I think I love how Luke was part of the reason I love Luke's Jedi journey is because he is determined. So yes, he has this innocence about him, but he is determined. I remember the scene in I think it's Empire Strikes Back, and when he's in Yoda's hut, and Yoda's he's too old to be trained, talking to Obi-Wan, and Luke's Obi-Wan, tell him I'm not too old to be trained, I can do this, and he gets excited and hits his head on the ceiling of the short hut that Yoda's living in, and this sorts of thing, and Yoda's yes, he's impatient, obvious. Luke's impatient, and so we see Luke is even though he's older, even though he is kind of ignorant of what is going on around him, innocent in a lot of ways, like I mentioned, he is determined, and we see we get to see the glimpses of what training was like prior to the Empire, and with doing the different training exercises, and as he runs a training course on Dagobah, which and all these sorts of things, and we get to see that. And I think the other interesting thing about Luke is Luke does not about Luke's Jedi journey is Luke does not yes, he has a master, but he doesn't have a master he travels with at all. And so he traveled with Obi-Wan very shortly, and then Yoda stays in Dagobah and doesn't leave, and eventually dies. And when Luke hasn't technically even became a Jedi Knight, when he confronts Vader and Palpatine, because according to Yoda, he has to defeat Vader and face Vader to become a full Jedi Knight. And so even until the end of Return of the Jedi, we don't even know that Luke's not even, I guess, at least according to Yoda, isn't a full Jedi Knight. And so I think the other interesting thing is he doesn't have a master that goes through all this with him, and he's kind of on his own journey figuring it out. And in a lot of ways that's unique, and we, at least according pre-Empire, that was been uncommon, as we've seen the prequels. And I mean, you're just looking at Obi-Wan and Anakin's master and apprentice relationship, and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Yes, they go and do things by themselves at times, different missions, depending on what the circumstances is, but they do a lot of missions together. They live together, and a lot of live life together, and that doesn't happen for Luke. And so Luke has I kind of feel a unique journey in that. And also the thing is up until this point, Jedi were trained at a young age, and Luke doesn't have that either. And so I just find Luke's Jedi story very Jedi journey, Jedi story, very interesting, and how it all plays out. And I love that we get to see some of these Jedi rituals / training aspects and all these things, and the time that goes into it. But at the same time, Luke has a very different Jedi journey compared to what a lot of Jedi have, especially within the Galactic Republic, and even New Republic, as we have some of those books come out. It's different, and even into the Old Republic at times, it's just different. And so because there is no Jedi Order, and so I just find that interesting, and how Luke develops so well, and is trying to figure all this out, and a lot of it on his own is what he's trying to figure out. And so, anyways, that's kind of my little bit of a take on his journey as a Jedi, and that's kind of that fifth thing I was wanting to talk to you guys about, is Luke has a unique Jedi journey compared to any other Jedi we see really in the Star Wars era. And so the only other Jedi that I would say has somewhat maybe of a similar experience as Luke is Rey. And there's a lot of parallels with Rey and Luke, but outside of that, like those two are the only ones that have like where their master doesn't train with them or go with them places. And even then, Rey's is quite a bit different than what Luke's was and how all that happened. But anyway, so like I just love how we see Luke's journey, his uniqueness, and I think that's the other thing is like we get into like the Chosen One prophecy and all this stuff, which gets a little. Some people get up in arms about that, but like I wonder if that's part of what made Luke like be able to bring balance to the Force, is because he didn't have these expectations from the Jedi Order. He was in a lot of ways like Luke was more, not exactly, but Luke in a lot of ways was more of a rebel than a Jedi. Yes, he was a Jedi, but how he lived his life was as a rebel, and that sort of thing, which is a lot different, and we only get to see a few Jedi that do that, and so I just think it's fun to see, and so we skipped a few things we usually do. We usually kind of do an introduction of like where's that character born, where is all the, like where did he grow up at, how old is he, and all these types of things. And so we skipped a lot of that because a lot of that is known about Luke. Luke was born on Tatooine and all this stuff. And so, but the one thing I do want to do that we usually do, and I am intrigued by, is where do you think we will see Luke next? So this is May the 3rd. I believe it is. Let me look it up here real quick. Yes. Sorry for the clicking on my keyboard. So May the 3rd, so we got like 3-4 weeks. May 25th is when the Kenobi series releases. So I really wonder if we're going to see Luke in the Kenobi series. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if we'd see like young Luke, like 10-year-old Luke. I think that'd be kind of fun. And just on the moisture farm doing his thing. I don't know if we'll see Luke on Tatooine at any point during that. And then, so I think that's a high possibility. And then also, I think with how much we've seen Luke within, this is kind of going outside the original trilogy now and what we were talking about, but I just would like to do this speculation with you guys on what's up and coming and what's next. Is I assume we're going to see more of Luke in potentially the next Mandalorian series, season 3, Mandalorian season 3. Maybe, I don't know though, because Grogu kind of split ways with Luke at the end of Book of Boba Fett. And if they do another Book of Boba Fett series or season, I would think we would. I want to say series instead of season. I would think we might have a chance to see Luke in there. And I think the other places we may see Luke as well is I think we may see Luke in the Ahsoka show as well. And I think the teaser that we got for that in the Book of Boba Fett is when Luke asks Ahsoka Tano in the Book of Boba Fett, like, will I see you again? And I think Ahsoka Tano responded with perhaps or something, or I don't know. It was like a one-word, like, mic drop type of thing. But it was like perhaps, and I feel like that hints or kind of foreshadows like we're gonna see Luke again. Ahsoka Tano and Luke we're gonna see Ahsoka Tano and Luke together again, and so I just think that would be interesting as well. And so I think those are some areas where we see Luke. I hope we get a boy Luke, like a 10, 12-year-old Luke in the Kenobi show, depending on what that looks like. That would be kind of fun. And I also think we'll see him potentially in some future seasons of Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. Potentially, I don't know. We may not, because it seems to have steered away from Luke a little bit, with Grogu kind of going his own way, but I don't know. We'll see. And then also, like I said, I think the Ahsoka show, there's a high potential to see Luke in that as well, which would be a lot of fun. And then I think the other thing, kind of, and this isn't so much where we're going to see. I feel like Luke is a potential in a lot of stuff. So like, I think there's is that called? What is that called? The Rangers of the New Republic or whatever. Like I think that is a potential as well to see Luke in that. And some different things, but I'd be a little more surprised if we did see Luke in that. But there's always potential for those sorts of things. The other thing I want to see, and especially we might see this more in the Ahsoka TV show when that comes out, is so. And I mentioned this earlier. Is there's a lot of Legends material with Luke, and I would encourage you guys to go check those out. There's some great books out there on that. But how they mesh the Legends material with like canon that's coming out with Ahsoka, and if there's any other appearances by Luke and that sort of thing. So I'd encourage you guys to check out Legends material with Luke as well. And like one thing I would love to see at some point maybe, and we get a glimpse of this in Rise of Skywalker on episode 9, but like, I don't know if they could do a TV series or what it would be, but like getting more glimpses of Luke training Leia, like I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I don't know if we'd see that even in Ahsoka potentially, but I think that would be pretty neat to see more of what that looked like when Luke trained Leia. I just think it would be a lot of fun as well. And so with that said, yeah, so I think these are some places where you can see him. I would go check out Legends material with Luke in it as well, and just all that stuff. And then, so that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys take those 5 points, maybe think about them yourself a little bit, like, what are those things about Luke that are just fun, that are cool, that are iconic scenes and memories and funny and all that sort of thing as well. And as we wrap up, two things as we wrap up. Question for this week: what is your favorite of the original trilogy movies and why? Potentially, if there's memory that goes with it. And then, along with that, we will, DM me at IkesFlame on Instagram or email me at ikesflame@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And we will, here as the month of May goes on, we will share those on the podcast if we get anything. So hopefully looking forward to hopefully hearing from you guys on that. That'll be a lot of fun. And then next week, we're sticking with the original trilogy. We're going to kind of do that same format with the 5 different things we're going over and why it's fun. And next week is another very iconic character that we have in Star Wars, and that we see right from the beginning, and it is in all 3 movies, original movies. So we will dive into that next week, and I don't want to give too much of a teaser because I'm afraid I'll give it away. But we'll dive into that more next week. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this week. Have a great May the 4th tomorrow, and May the 4th be with you. And like we always like to say here on Ike's Flame, light the fire.